The astrology of May 2025 is going to be absolutely spectacular, my friends, and I know what's going on in the world is kind of loopy, kind of crazy, and that aside, we have some brilliant astrology that is manifesting in all dimensions of all aspects of life. That is exactly what astrology is, my friends. It is a mirror of reality, whether we like it or not. And this month of May not only is going to be massively transformative for the world, but of course it is going to continue our transformations and evolution as individuals. Now, that's something I always want to drive home to all of you, is that no matter what goes on in the world, we are still embodying something very important here that we need to continue forth on. We need to continue fulfilling our missions and roles in this world. We all have gifts, we all have strengths, we all have something we need to work on. And this month is really going to start truly propelling us out of all the crazy winter astrology. We are finally concluding Venus's retrograde, if you can believe that. I know Venus has been out of her retrograde for some time now, but starting in the middle of the month, she is officially out of her retrograde zone at 10 degrees Aries. So that's something we're really going to talk about today. Maybe, I don't know how much detail, but it is significant for me. That's happening May 15th. But to be honest, guys, May has a lot of stuff going on. Okay, we have very powerful lunation cycles. We have a full moon in Scorpio. We have a new moon in Gemini. We're starting off the month with a Venus and Neptune conjunction, which is going to be kind of following from the late part of April into May. So starting May off, we have a gorgeous Venus-Neptune conjunction in the extreme early degrees of Aries. Obviously, Venus will be at 0 degrees, Neptune is at 1 degree. And that's kind of going to be a moment, because the last time Venus touched Neptune was right before Neptune ingressed into Aries. So Venus and Mercury, during their retrograde cycles, they had a conversation with Neptune in Pisces before Neptune flipped over. And now we are having Venus come back into Aries to have another conversation. Now, we're going to talk about this, guys. It's starting off the month fresh. We have this beautiful essence and harmony of Venus coming back into a fire sign, Aries, where it wants to initiate. It wants to take life by the you-know-what and sort of just say, hey, I want to express something here. And with Neptune, we're talking about our visions. We're talking about something we believe in, blending creativity and spiritual essence potentially. So that's something I really want to touch on. Yeah, guys. And then at the way end of the month, we have a Mercury Cazimi that's happening 2 days after the new moon in Gemini. And to me, that's going to be very significant, because what this new moon in Gemini really represents is, in the shortest of words, breaking through mental blocks. And the Cazimi is going to be the medicine that allows us to solve that problem. So for me, seeing this new moon fall at 6 degrees in the first decan of Gemini, and we're going to talk all about the decans, by the way, today as well. Many of you know I work with the decans and the tarot card associations with those decans. And the Mercury Cazimi following just a few days later is happening in that same first decan, okay? And to me, this is very symbolic for the answer to the question, like I just said before. And the first decan of Gemini is actually, it's ruled by Jupiter, so we're talking about knowledge and wisdom and expansion. There's a need and a desire for any transit that goes over that decan to want to fulfill something in that department. And to have a new moon there, plus the Cazimi, we are for sure talking about a deeper truth that's trying to come through, trying to be born. New moons are always birthings. And that is something we're all going to, experience in our own way, depending on where Gemini is in your birth chart, of course. So that's going to be a really powerful new moon. And then, of course, not to go all over the place, but we have a full moon in Scorpio happening May 12th. And that is going to be a powerful one, because speaking of Venus going back into Aries, Scorpio is a zodiac sign ruled by Mars in ancient astrology. And we have Venus, okay, transiting in Mars's home sign, Aries. But we have a Venus ruled decan, okay, which has nothing to do, obviously, with transiting Venus, but having the softness of a Venus Decan in a Mars-ruled sign with a full moon is going to provide a pretty emotionally complex, possibly aggressive, but not really, because the Decan is really the flavor of this full moon. Okay, so we're going to talk about how this third Decan of Scorpio is very relevant and important to this full moon, and the emotional complexity and the emotional intensity that this full moon might bring us, and how relationship themes might be kind of something that we must look out for. So in all areas of the Scorpio parts of our lives, there might be a highlight involving relationships. There might be a highlight involving how we are even like fantasizing in a way, because again, the tarot card associated with this Decan is very much involved with reality versus illusion, fantasy. Okay, not knowing proper decisions, okay, kind of being disillusioned potentially, kind of like Neptunian in a way. So I feel like this full moon might be a little Neptunian, if you can believe that. And then, so, I mean, that's the thing, guys. The lunation cycles are really powerful, and it really is going to be about maybe coming back to reality in some ways and being faced with decisions that need to bring us back into reality. So, and then one of the last biggest transits, obviously, that needs no introduction, and we need to constantly be evolving this conversation, which we already talked about in another video, is Saturn going into Aries, guys. So this is happening May 25th. This is happening about, like a week or so after that full moon in Scorpio. And there's a lot of Mars activation going on. Like, that's the one thing we need to discuss here. Aries is being massively activated. Mars is the ruler of all of this. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. And we have Saturn going back into Aries after 20-something years, 26 or so years, right? Neptune is there for the first time in 160 years. And they are going to be speaking to each other immediately starting May 25th. Now, we've talked about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I made a whole video on it, so go check that out. And Saturn-Neptune conjunctions are all about blending the real with the unreal, blending realism with idealism, putting concrete action and structure and discipline into something we wish to manifest from nothing. The spiritual structure. Again, on the world stage, we could be looking at structures and things that want to be set in stone and made concrete, and the visions and ideologies that are packed alongside that. So, we can talk about the uprise of new political systems that some countries maybe have never seen before. Like, for example, the transformation of what America has been undergoing at the moment. Whether you like that or not, there is some kind of authority trying to be birthed here. There's a lot of, dancing in between legal things and what is legal, what is not legal, how authority is trying to override systems. Okay, and that's also going to tie into the Pluto and Aquarius story, because early degrees of Aries is talking to the early degrees of Aquarius, which is where Pluto is. And then Uranus and Gemini will be the other major piece of this puzzle as we get into the summer. But yeah, my friends, we're going to cruise through this month to the best of my ability in the briefest of words, because one, I love to ramble, and number two, these monthlies really are just overviews. They're not supposed to be in-depth transit reads, because that's literally what the rest of my YouTube videos are going to be about. Every month we dive deeper into these things. So diving deeper into the full moon, the new moon, of course, possibly more talking on Saturn and Aries, and then whatever else this month is going to bring as far as content here, guys. But yeah, so that all aside, we're going to broad stroke this month. And so if you are new to the channel, by the way, and before I go further, before I go further in this video, my friends, if you are new and you are enjoying this video thus far, maybe you can consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, hitting the notification bell, leaving a comment. I love reading your comments, and all of that engagement really helps the YouTube algorithm share my channel and my content. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are interested in content such as this. And I just love how we're building such a crazy, amazing community here. We're all so supportive in the comments. We're all just so alive with astrological excitement. And yes, some of us are here to try to gauge the pulse of the world so we can feel maybe a little bit more at ease on what's going on in the world. But I always hope that what I do here can help you and that we can all help each other in the comments. So all that engagement, the subscribes, comments, likes, that stuff really helps. So if you're new, I hope you could consider subscribing here. Yeah, my friends, other than that, yeah, if anyone would like to connect with me with for a 90-minute Zoom reading, I'm pretty booked up, I think, for May, and June there's a lot going on. You guys can book up in June. There might be a couple of slots left in May. So if you're interested in connecting with me one-on-one on Zoom, 90-minute Zoom reading, we record it. And yeah, I would love to connect with you as we get this summer astrology up and running, you know? Yeah, and then other than that, check out the links down below, you know, if you want to learn anything else about me or, you know, support Patreon or something. So yeah, I have a Patreon and I'm trying to figure out the best way to evolve the Patreon. So, but in the meantime, you can support me for as little as $3 a month. And, I may start actually some kind of an exclusive podcast there. So, yeah, more on that coming soon. But yeah, that's all I have for my little announcements, guys, and let's get into some dates here. All right, well, we start the month off with the first day of the month. This is May 1st, right? And this is when we're going to have a Venus-Neptune conjunction. Now, the conjunction of Venus and Aries with Neptune is about harmonizing beauty, pleasure, and just the love of connection with the planet that is boundless and spiritual and creative and, yes, possibly full of illusion. So we have to be careful with a Venus-Neptune conjunction just as much as we have to be thrilled and potentially excited in the Aries parts of our lives, because we are wrapping up a post-shadow, okay, phase for Venus, okay? So Venus is still integrating like what she has went through involving the retrograde stories of our lives. So please let me know, guys, by the way, like what your Venus retrograde story was about. Like, do you have any stories to share? Anything involving relationships or anything involving the blocks of creativity or beauty or love, anything like that? Because the Venus-Neptune conjunction is going to come back into the Aries part. It's going to happen in the Aries part of our life, of course. And Venus went retrograde for the first 10 degrees of Aries. So again, Venus, harmony, beauty, love, connection, and Neptune is about illusion, but also boundless spirituality and creativity and, you know, wanting to bring dreams into this world. So Neptune can blur the lines of beauty and love and creativity. It can enhance creative envisions, enhance spiritual connection and love, or it could maybe slip us in and out of, like, again, trying to gauge what's real and not real. So it depends on who you are. It depends on what you're going through, what you did go through. But a Venus-Neptune conjunction, all things considered, in Aries, of course, where we want to take action and be more assertive there, this can be very beneficial. I'm kind of just getting reminded of like an artist who like could have this type of moment, you know, where we're blending, like taking action on a record that they want to record or some kind of like creative endeavor they want to start producing. This is like that moment where everything kind of clicks together and they can start initiating that project, go into that recording studio, you know? So this is, you know, bringing dreams, bringing connection into the dreams we have and harmonizing that. So, you know, this can also kind of manifest as romantic idealism and passion. So, I mean, that all ties into what I said, creative inspiration, right? That's what I just said. I'm just reading some notes here, guys, spiritual love. So, but there also could be a challenge. Here's where the illusion comes in, challenges with boundaries. Okay. So do we have boundaries within any sort of connection, or are we like losing track of what's real, what's not real? So are we losing boundaries in our love life? Is there something happening maybe within a creative, like, or a romantic space, not a creative space, a romantic space where boundaries are being eroded, you know? So we got to make sure that we are, you know, being okay in that department. Nothing weird is going on in any sort of love connections where we're totally, you know, putting down our guard and we're not staying firm in some things. Now, the next big transit I want to talk about, obviously, is the full moon in Scorpio. So the full moon in Scorpio will be happening at 22 degrees, and this will be happening in the third decan of Scorpio, which is ruled by Venus. Now, this decan is also associated with the Seven of Cups tarot card, which is why this, in my opinion, is going to be a really interesting full moon. Because again, wherever Scorpio is in your life will paint the picture. It is the theme of life that this is going down. But the flavor of this full moon is going to reveal something that is going to involve choice, temptation, potentially, illusions, emotional and psychological overwhelm, fantasy versus reality is going to kind of be, I think, some of the energies involved here. Now, full moons reveal something that was once hidden. And when we deal with Scorpio, we are dealing with intense emotion. We are dealing with power, and we are dealing with potentially even obsession sometimes. And Scorpio is nothing but transformative. And we have to kind of always analyze, like, okay, well, what is the Scorpio story in my life? What house topic is this? Please share. Where is Scorpio in your life? I feel like I haven't even talked about Scorpio here in a really long time, honestly. But yeah, this is really important because this full moon is going to reveal something in that part of your life. And I think that we are going to be dealing with realms of emotional situations, emotional, intimate situations that could involve love, that could involve anything that has to do with something Venusian, something that involves passion. And relationship themes and facing inner illusions involving potentially relationship themes. Now, Venus always wants to make things harmonious, but in Scorpio and with the tarot card associated with this decan ruled by Venus, this is where the lines of reality kind of become strange. So I feel this could be a full moon of reflection, discernment, and emotional honesty, because Scorpio is authentic. Scorpio is nothing but real and intense. And sometimes those combinations can be really, really all over the place. So we're dealing with a lot going on in the Scorpio part of our life that is going to illuminate something that is very much involved with the depth and the intensity of what connection is all about. So this is a Scorpio full moon involving connection. Okay, this is how I'm feeling about it. And I feel some of us who may be wrapped up with things that could be detrimental involving the word temptation. So again, is anybody being a little too promiscuous? Is there anything involving romantic endeavors that can be a little bit too, I don't know, like intense in maybe a poor way? You know, we don't want to get too crazy with intense emotional revelations, but sometimes we have to kind of keep an inventory on like what's going on. You know, like what is this connection all about? You know, is this something that's actually something I want to keep in my life? Is this something I actually want to interface with, you know, anymore? Or is this something that I don't even want to engage with anymore? You know? So this is a deeply emotional, intense full moon, and is going to involve Venusian energy. That's kind of like the best way to put it. So themes of love, beauty, and pleasure and values. Okay. So in the Seven of Cups, again, we're dealing with difficulty discerning truth from illusion. So this is the lesson packed into this full moon, my friends. And dealing with this in a psychological way is going to be really difficult for some, but I think also very enlightening. So don't forget, there's always light with some of these like transits that seem like, okay, well, this could be a little strange, you know, but there's always a lesson and a moment for that clarity to come. And I think that's really important, that we really kind of face certain things in our life head on, especially in the Scorpio part of our life. because when we do so, we learn our greatest lessons. So depending on what this Scorpio full moon is going to bring for you, I think overall this is an emotionally intense revelatory where we're going to face some inner illusions in order for us to get back to reality. And that's really a theme of the month. Reality. Aries is all about, moving forward and making things real and being fearless. And Saturn going back into Aries is all about reality, making things real and concrete. And Scorpio is ruled by Mars. And we have a moment here with this full moon to interface with something. And that's the word that keeps coming to me. Interface with something so we can pierce through illusion and come back to some kind of harmony. But in the process, we might be tempted. There may be things that come in and out of our life, or that's in the Scorpio part of our life that, seems really shiny on the surface, but really needs to be dealt with more authenticity and seriousness, if that makes any sense. So we're going to talk more about the full moon in Scorpio, guys, obviously at a later date, but what's coming after this full moon in Scorpio is Venus finishing up her post shadow. And the post shadow for Venus, again, we have to remember that retrogrades aren't over once the retrograde stops. There's an integration phase that needs to be activated and needs to be continued on. So May 15th, Venus comes back to her 10-degree position where she went retrograde originally. So the integration phase is finally concluding May 15th. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what did we go through during that Venus retrograde? So again, please let me know what you went through during that Venus retrograde if you feel like sharing, because the integration phase is all about, okay, well, what did we learn? What did we integrate? Like, what did we gather from what we experienced during that time? So, there's really not much to talk about involving that, but if you would like to share anything, that's something I'm really interested in knowing. And I'm sure a lot of us have our own retrograde stories, my friends. I have mine in the 5th house and now it's going back into the 6th house of work, daily life routines and health and wellness and service. And for me, Venus was really asking me like, okay, well, with the 5th house, self-expression and creativity, of course. And for me, like making videos and kind of doing a lot for YouTube and my astrology career, quote unquote, has been really important to me. So again, kind of like getting blocked and figuring out things and kind of needing to review, like, how do I approach content? Like, am I happy doing things a certain way? Like, how do I go about this? So for me, that's been one aspect of the Venus retrograde, kind of understanding more about my creative process. And how do I bring more harmony and flow and spiritual connection even into, my work. Okay. With Pisces in the 5th house. Yeah. I mean, I better feel something deep. There better be some very deep, spiritual wisdom or spiritual feeling into how I express myself. That's very important for Scorpio risings to understand about their 5th house. So yeah, once again, guys, let me know what's going on with your Venus retrograde post shadow story. What house topics were they? Like, what did you experience, etc.? I would love to know all about that. And then on May 25th, we're going to have Saturn enter Aries, my friends. And this is going to conjoin Neptune at 1 degree. Now, I made an entire 30-something minute video on this, and I really hope you can go over there at some point, maybe after this video, if you are new to my channel, and go watch that, because I really dove deep into exactly how I feel Saturn in Aries is going to begin this historic transit with Neptune. So to keep things light and short here, Saturn wants to make things real. Okay. Saturn wants to make things concrete and provide structure. It wants to even limit things so we can learn some hard lessons at times. But really, it's all about blending the real with the unreal involving Neptune. So the unreal, I'm saying like things we can't see, things that we can't physically touch and do, things we can't see with our physical eyes, but we can feel intuitively, that we can envision through our imagination and mind. And Saturn is all about structure and limitations and building stuff. You know, it's about patience and time. So Saturn for sure wants to come in, and in a fiery sign like Aries, for sure wants to take action and make things real very, very quickly over a certain period of time. Like, it wants to help us in our daily tasks. It wants to help us in what we are all about in Aries. Okay, so where is Aries in your life? Because this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is all about bringing that discipline and that hard work and kind of making things real there. Okay, so so whatever's been going on in Aries for you, you can expect a restructure, a rebrand. We are definitely kind of walking in to our house and going, okay, well, we need to get rid of this and we need to start doing this. And this may take some time, but I have the vision and the belief and the faith that Neptune is here for me. And we're going to begin this 1.5 year massive transit, because after a 1.5 years or so, Saturn will move beyond a proper degree range with Neptune. So that's why from this point forward to mid 2026 is really the most important time for Saturn and Neptune. So this is why when we look at the world stage, when we look and feel into what could be coming over the next 12 months, this is the story that's playing out. So what is Saturn, the planet of discipline, structure, reality, okay, versus illusion? We're dealing in the realm of that. So for a lot of us, this is going to be great, I feel, to be honest with you, because I think a lot of us in Aries need to have faith in our visions and need to step into some kind of power involving our spiritual power, our will, involving things we believe in, our dreams, okay? And again, even feeling a deeper connection to that part of our life, spiritually speaking, okay? And Saturn's going to want to like implement some discipline there and structure for all of that. So again, please watch my other video, guys, because that was a really powerful transmission that I brought to you guys on YouTube. And of course, I'm going to talk about this at a later date more in detail. Now, on May 26th, we have a new moon in Gemini, and this is going to be happening at 6 degrees in the first decan, of Gemini, and this is ruled by Jupiter. So Gemini is all about the way we communicate, guys. It is about the mind. It is about how we socialize. Again, that part of your life, let me know where Gemini is. We are trying to engage with life there a little bit more mentally, intellectually. We might want to be more communicative there. We might be very communicative there. We might be writers there. Again, it could be maybe one of the more social houses in your entire life, right? And also a place, excuse me, where we can be curious, you know? So this new moon, which is all about birthing, right? Full moons reveal, new moons are about birthings. And with a Jupiter-ruled decan, this is also about being curious about something deeper, okay? Which for Gemini is a little bit hard because Gemini doesn't necessarily think so deeply all the time. That's part of their mission in life, is to go beneath the surface and to actually spend some time being more curious and, fast moving within realms that are a little bit more philosophical or more serious, maybe even in nature. So this new moon is going to be about communication as a bridge to understanding, wisdom through playful inquiry. So think about Jupiter, wisdom through playful inquiry, okay? Like, so being lighthearted and, open and curious, but also being very serious in the way we come to possibly something that is looking to be manifested in this new moon moment. So there's going to be a big lesson, I think, with this new moon in this first decan ruled by Jupiter that involves deeper lessons of wisdom and truth, okay? And what's interesting, though, about this decan, and again, I'm going to talk more about this new moon in a very powerful, bigger video into May, later in the month, but this decan, when we talk about the tarot, we are looking at the Eight of Swords energy, guys. So this tarot card is really about mental entrapment, analysis paralysis, self-imposed limitations, the illusion of no options, being stuck in a mental loop. So what does this have to do with Jupiter? What does this have to do with the beautiful, well, I don't want to say beautiful, because I mean, I'm a Gemini moon, and I can tell you my mind is my worst enemy sometimes. And to be honest, the tarot cards associated with Gemini, by the way, the 8 of Swords, 9 of Swords, and 10 of Swords, those are some of the most intense swords cards you can get in the tarot. And there's a lot that I could talk about involving, the Gemini decans, involving the tarot. And when I do a course next year, I'll be diving into a lot of this stuff, but yeah, so what does this have to do with anything? I feel that there's a deep lesson of truth and wisdom and something really powerful that is trying to be birthed in Gemini. And there's something limiting us. There is something still that is blocking us, though. And maybe we're not ready to accept what is happening in the Gemini part of our life. Maybe we are still blocked in something really serious there, because Jupiter is going to want to bring something. The Jupiter ruled decan is about expansion. So something possibly is preventing us from expanding in the Jupiter part of our life, especially now, because this is where this new moon is activating. So yeah, we've had Jupiter transit through Gemini for the last year, which is a whole story in itself of Jupiter in detriment, in exile, in Gemini, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is the opposite zodiac sign of Gemini. So technically Jupiter doesn't like transiting in Gemini, because Jupiter wants to expand in a really, truthful and in a beautiful way where it really can bring us deeper things. And Gemini is not really about depth at all. It's about superficial, fast moving curiosity, learning, and being just like on the surface, like fun and playful and all that stuff. But the depth of Jupiter tries its best to bring you serious lessons there. Excuse me, guys. So we are dealing with this decan where this new moon is falling, where something wants to be born. Something wants to be birthed here, okay? And what's interesting is that this birthing is going to involve piercing through some kind of a mental block, some kind of clarity. We need to have set intentions for clarity during this new moon. And within a couple of days after, and to kind of conclude the video, by the way, because I don't want to make this too long, and I'm kind of like choking to death over here for no reason. So we are going to have a Mercury Cazimi a couple of days later. So literally a couple of days later after this new moon, Mercury conjoins the sun. And Cazimis are all about purifications. They're enlightenments of the planet. So there is a rebirth that the planet goes through. And Mercury rules Gemini. And in this particular moment, a couple of days after this new moon, we're going to have that clarity. That breakthrough is coming just a couple of days later. So that's why I think this new moon is really, really important to track from now. So keep an eye out on what Gemini is in your life. Like what part of that life is, like what theme of life is that for you? Because there probably have been blocks there for the month, okay? I mean, Jupiter is wrapping up its transit here, but that doesn't mean we can't have blocks. And like I said, Jupiter, a planet of expansion and growth, in a zodiac sign like Gemini, where there's always a lot going on with the mind and our thoughts and communication, that could be overstimulating. So that's why I keep telling people all year round, like Jupiter in Gemini actually is like 10 times more activations for your nervous system dysregulation. It can provide too much, and yes, too much good things too, but sometimes too much good stuff, too many things that are happening so fast is still very overwhelming to our system. It can still be very overwhelming in that part of our life. And then other things in our life might go wrong, or other things in our life may be sacrificed. You just don't know how this imbalance of stuff can play out. And personally, I've been having a good Jupiter and Gemini transit in my 8th house of all places, but it's been expanding me in really deep ways. But also things are moving really, really fast in my life as well. So there's a lot going on that like my mind and my nervous system is still trying to gauge with. So I'm just saying for the month of May, as we come to a new moon transit, when we're dealing with this new moon, birthing something in an area of our life that is ruled by the Eight of Swords, okay, where we're going to break free through any self-limiting, being stuck in mental loops. So any limiting analysis paralysis stuff is going to be liberated. So this, in the end, is going to be, I think, a beautiful transit. And that's why I said it's going to be a beautiful new moon in the beginning of this video, because the theme of what we're going to be experiencing from it, which is really liberation of analysis paralysis, liberation of mental entrapment. And the Mercury Cazimi is like kind of the guard opening up the key and saying, you're free now, you know? So yeah, my friends, well, that's kind of my brief-ish breakdown of May. So I hope you found this video informative. And if you're new, once again, I hope you can consider subscribing to the channel and supporting the community here. And and I'll see you all in the next video.